Hey, welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast brought to you by the Who You Know Network. Remember, don't drown the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S lifeline. We are so happy you're joining us today. We are going to have a great conversation talking about cyber. This is one of those topics that I know during my transition I heard a lot about in the various networking events and things I went to. So this is going to be an awesome conversation. If you're interested in getting into cyber, you want to pay attention, break out that pen and paper, and start taking down some notes. Believe it or not, we got Eric back in the co-host seat. He's back from his mission. How you doing today, Eric?
Brother, I'm awesome. I'm excited to be here. I like you, man. When I went through my transition, all I heard about was cyber, and what I have come to learn in my time working in transition and helping folks trying to find that next great opportunity is that when you think cyber, these are the two guys you need to think about. Right? These are the guys that know it. These are the guys you want to link in with. So I'm really happy to have them on the show. Gents, I'm happy you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm hoping you guys can shed some light for a lot of our folks.
Be happy to.
No doubt. All right, so we'll get right into the introductions. We got Gunnar Kallstrom with us. He is a cyber team lead for a Department of Defense contracting company and has also worked as a computer network defense cyber analyst, author, and content creator for Cybersecurity Academy. He has spent 15 years in the Army as a musician before entering the cybersecurity field. Seems like a natural transition to go from music to cyber. I can't wait to hear how that whole process worked out. He's completed several cybersecurity training programs, notably the Cyber Warrior Academy program with more than 800 hours of hands-on, intensive and lab-driven technical training in cybersecurity methods and procedures. He is absolutely passionate about all things cyber, and he has given talks at the InfoSec World Conference in 2022, and will be doing it again in 2023 to talk about hacking into a cyber career, true stories. We have the one and only cyber maestro with us, Gunnar Kallstrom. Gunnar, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Shawn. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Outstanding. And with him, you'll see VET S.O.S alumni Keith Cassant, the Band-Aid Ripper, as he is affectionately known. He serves Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Veteran Employment Program Manager, conducting veteran outreach to support the agency's missions and goals. He has over 20 years of experience in the military and federal government with a Master's of Art in Organizational Leadership and multiple certifications in cybersecurity and human resources. And he also serves as a CISA expert analyst in the assessment and improvement of complex programs and processes such as student social media recruitment, digital marketing, and on and offboarding programs. He is a huge veteran supporter and advocate and has done a ton of things for our community. Welcome back to the show, Keith. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm awesome, Shawn. It's great to be back. And wow, that bio's mind dizzying even for me to hear. So no, it's awesome to be back. I'm excited to be here this morning.
Outstanding. Well, gentlemen, we're going to jump right into it. Gunnar, we've heard from Keith, so we're going to let him recap here in a minute about his transition story. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about your transition, how it worked for you, how you made that jump from being a musician to being in cyber. Please fill in some of the blanks for us. Let us know about your story.
Sure, I'll do my best. So like you said, I was in the military band for about 15 years, and it was a great career. I loved it, but I just got to the point where I was ready to be a civilian again. I was always going to do 20 years, but I decided, it's my time to get out. Family and I, we wanted to just stay in one spot and not move every couple of years. So actually made a pros and cons list for staying in versus getting out. And the list for getting out was just much larger. So I decided, all right, I'm gonna get out early. And then I had to figure out what I wanted to do. I honestly had no idea. So this was like a couple years before my ETS date of getting out, and I went to the Army Transition Assistance Program, and they kept pushing cybersecurity. And I really didn't know much about cyber. I've always been interested in computers and stuff like that, and I always thought it might be kind of cool to be an ethical hacker, but I never pursued that. I pursued my passion for music. And so when I decided to get out, I ended up picking cyber. It sounded like a pretty exciting career option with lots of benefits like career growth and potentially high pay and stuff like that. And also like the mission attached to it as well. It seemed pretty worthwhile. So immediately I started doing research on like how can I learn what I need to do to get into cyber. So I found a 4-month online program that I did in the evenings while I was still active duty. Completed that, and then I did research on a skill bridge program, which I knew I definitely wanted to take advantage of that. It's kind of a no-brainer when you're getting out of the military. So I found a really good program, the Cyber Warrior Academy. Ended up enrolling in that, and my command team in the Army graciously allowed me to do that full time for the last 6 months of my Army career. So I did that full time, just jumped head first on learning cyber, and just became obsessed with it, and ended up completing that. And actually, I ended up getting hired a couple months before graduation, and it was my first day as a civilian. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. There's way more that went on behind the scenes, like Keith Cassant mentoring me with my resume and attending conferences and all that kind of stuff. But that's my transition story in a nutshell.
Well, the one thing to me that stuck out there is that you had a plan and you worked your plan. And no doubt you had help along the way. I think we all have. And I'm sure our Band-Aid ripper here probably ripped off a few Band-Aids early for you to help you get on the right path. But love that story. And it sounds like, you really did have a plan and worked it. So that's great to hear. Keith, can you give us just a quick sort of recap of yours? I know you're an all eggs in one basket type of person, as you told us before.
Yeah. So as the bio said, 22 years in the Army. When I got out, I had to reinvent myself essentially because I put all my eggs in one basket initially, and that basket broke. So it was stressful having to reinvent myself and figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up all over again. So when I landed on the other side of the uniform, if you will, on my feet, quote unquote, I just had an intense passion and desire to give back to that community that poured into me when I came out. So I've been retired. Actually, I hit 4 years just like a couple weeks ago. So about 4 years now. I've been mentoring and giving back to the community as best I can. And got into the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Not a cyber guy by trade, but yes, my first role, especially my first year and a half plus in the agency, I was supporting penetration testers, good guy hackers, in layman's terms. And so I got exposed to the industry, got a lot of experience in the field. And now my agency graciously kind of recognized my passion for veteran service and stuff, as well as the experience and exposure that I had to cybersecurity. Decided he'd make a great recruiter for veterans. So I'm actually just in the acting role. I'm actually dual hatted in the agency, but being with my outreach for mentorship and veterans, working in this agency, it just kind of became a natural thing for me to begin mentorship in this industry specifically. So
I think what I love about both of those stories, Shawn, is that they speak so clearly to a lot of us, right? A lot of us are coming out of the military and it's either I don't want to keep doing what I've been doing, right? Or I don't know what I want to do. And I think that's the power behind both of these stories, is that when you find yourself in that moment, there's hope on the other side, right? It can be done. You're not the only one that's come out and gone, geez, I don't want to kick indoors anymore, or I don't want to play in the band anymore, right? Like you're just not the only one. People have done it. And so that when we could get guys on like you two to come in and share your stories and talk about what you've done and how you kind of made that pivot, right? That's that key word, right? That word, that pivot, it can be done successfully. So good on you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Between the pivoting and the rebranding or recreating yourself, that's something I think that resonates with so many of us in the community, and really has a huge impact on what we're trying to do. So definitely applaud you both for the different ways you got to where you are. So let's talk pivoting into cyber, okay? Because neither of you guys were cyber guys, while you were in the service. And so somehow you both found yourself in that world in one capacity or another. So, well, we'll start with you, Gunnar. Elaborate more on the actual pivot. There's something that took you from being in the Army band to being the cyber maestro, if you will. How did you manage to even pivot that successfully?
That's a lot to unpack, actually. So really, it started with a decision. And that may sound simple, but I think that's where it all starts. Like, I decided I was going to do this, and it worked out, but I didn't have a plan B. I'm like, I'm going to go into cyber, and I'm going to do what it takes to make it happen. So then I came up with a plan. I wrote everything down. And I used like all the resources that I possibly could, especially the ones that are just for veterans, like Veterati, free mentorship. I talked to dozens and dozens of people on there in cyber, and they gave me the hard truths about what it takes to get into cybersecurity, because it's challenging to do, especially if you don't have a prior role as help desk, sysadmin, those type of technical roles. I got advice from everyone I could in the industry. I sought out mentors, and I used every resource that I possibly could. And then I came up with that plan and then put it into action. And it took I read a book one time, and it talked about the craftsman mindset. So it's putting in deliberate practice every day towards what your goal is. And that's what I did.
I like that, the craftsman mindset. I'm gonna have to check that out. But that just that phrase alone really, if you approach it like that, and a lot of times I use the customer service mindset when I talk to people in leadership roles about how you should be dealing with people and helping people. But I love that when you especially trying to learn a new trade, that crafting mindset. I really like that one. What about you, Keith?
Well, first of all, I think I just want to comment on some of the great stuff Gunnar just said. So he said he made the decision, right? And again, I'm the Band-Aid ripper. I'm the truth bomb guy, right? So many veterans, we skirt around that decision, right? We I can do this and I can do this because the military makes us jacks of all trades, right? So we want to do that in the civilian world, or continue to operate in that method, right? And there's so much importance in, look, you tighten the shot group, right? I know Army, I think Marine Corps can definitely relate to that term, but tighten that shot group, narrow down your focus, right? And that's exactly what Gunnar did. And then he drilled down. I love the fact that he pointed that out. And honestly, I don't necessarily want to kick it back to him, but I can talk all day about some of the stuff that I'll probably share again later, but he said he learned some hard truths from some of the folks that he talked to on Veterati. If you're okay with it, Gunnar, I'd love to kick it right back to you. I want to hear some of these hard truths for the cyber folks.
Dude, I love it when a guest becomes the host.
I'm sorry.
Let's go.
He said hard truths. I'm like,
I'm just gonna keep drinking coffee. You guys keep talking. You guys keep going.
We'll be here if you need us.
The Keith and Gunnar show.
No, we can't all drink coffee, Gunnar. He kicked it back to you, buddy.
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think back because I was 2 years ago. And the big thing is just go ahead.
I was gonna say something I don't know because I didn't walk the same journey, obviously. And one of the things I've always wanted to be able to articulate better to folks that I mentor and stuff, even trying to go into cyber, like just the hours. Like, I'm sure one of the hard truths is probably the time that you had to invest into this pivot, right? And so I would love for me at least, and I think a lot of listeners, but and then anything else you want to expand on, but I think that would be a very valuable piece of talking point. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. It's a steep learning curve if you don't have prior IT and cyber experience. So you really have to dedicate a lot of hours. And trying to think back. Yeah, you have to kind of become obsessed with it. If you don't have 5-10 years of IT experience, I remember when I first applied to One Skill Bridge, I was talking to the hiring manager, and I was told him I was interested in interning, and he's like, "Well, do you have this certification, this certification? Do you have this experience?" I'm like, "I have none of that yet." So then I had to get that, and if you don't have the professional experience, I had to come up with ways to get that, like doing home labs, spinning up virtual machines, going on free websites like TryHackMe and Hack the Box, and just getting the experience that I needed on my own. So kind of getting creative with that type of thing.
I love it when I hear our veterans come on here, Shawn, and they talk about the things that they learned, because Gunnar, that's something that's a skill that you have, right? It's the drive and the dedication to learn something new. That's something that we can look back on our military careers and go, I kind of got that here. Like I kind of gleaned that from the military. That's a usable and attainable skill that I can bring forward, right? I can't bring the uniform forward. I'm not bringing the lickies and chewies forward. I'm not bringing the knife hand forward, right? There's things I'm not going to bring forward, but there are very valuable things that we learned and that we kind of grew in. And I think having that dedication and that decision-making process and the ability to be disciplined, to say, I'm going to teach myself something new. Not everybody can do that, but I'm guaranteeing you that those are skills you learned, right? Through the discipline it took to march in a straight line while playing an instrument, right? Like those are all things that you brought forward that they may not look like, smell like, or taste like they align, but with a small tweak, with a small twist, they become very relevant in your next field.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, that work ethic and everything all the soft skills, right? We always talk about the soft skills that veterans have, and and so many times veterans, we maybe have to take a little bit of a step back, or entry level. I hate to use that term, but because we're all probably qualified to come out and be senior level managers and everything. But that's also why once we hit the ground running and we take off. That whole statistic, there's a range because there's different studies, but 3 to 5 jobs in the first 4 to 6 years ish for the average veteran. I truly believe this because, once we get our foot in the door, we take off because we've got that ethic, we've got those values and stuff. The values that we used to always groan about when we were in uniform. Now we're like, holy cow, these actually mean something, and they're valuable to the civilian world, especially. So, and Gunnar, I love what he said about just the way of life. My previous team before I became the Veterans Program Manager. Acting veterans program, but on the previous role though, when I supported the penetration testing team, like these guys live and breathe that stuff. I mean, they are your traditional hackers. Like if we let them, they'd be working in a dark room wearing a hoodie with a black screen and green font. I mean, it's exactly what you would think. And they just and when they're not on the clock, they're out doing like bug bounties and capture the flags and all these other cyber activities that hone their skills. I mean, it's a craft. It's almost like, I'm not trying to upset any of the medical community, but it's almost like being a doc, because we've seen the industry, the cyber and IT industry change, and it changes, I'd say, almost more frequently at this point in the medical field. And we expect our doctors to always be on top of their game, constantly researching new, practices and medicines and all that. It's the same thing with cybersecurity. It's constantly changing, and so you've got to continuously stay active, stay engaged, and learn the latest TTPs that's going on in the industry.
I think you sort of hit it twice there, Keith. Is one, I never really thought about cyber in the terms of basically any other craft where you have to continuously hone your skills. Now, I knew from the Homeland Security standpoint that it's one of our greatest vulnerabilities, and our cyber people have to be on top of it. They always have to be cutting edge and learning new stuff. And you really putting into perspective the fact that they're out there honing their skills in their off time too. It's almost, in my mind, the image that came to mind was like a WWE professional wrestler. They're always coming up with a new gimmick. They're always working their mic time. They're always working different routines. They're always trying to stay cutting edge and stay relevant. And I know cyber and wrestling are completely different, but if you can go from the band to cyber, why can't you go from cyber to wrestling? That's really what everybody wants to figure out. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but 800 hours, Gunnar, on the Cyber Warrior Academy. Tell us, what is the Cyber Warrior Academy? What is the deal behind that? And I know 800 hours sounds like a lot to me. So why is that significant? Enlighten the community on that one.
Sure. Yeah, it's a program that I did during SkillBridge. It's a 6 or 7 month program. It's all online, and when I went through it, it was 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and then you have homework outside of that. And they start from computer IT fundamentals, and then they build upon that. So they assume you have no prior experience, and they just build a foundation for you, leading all the way up to certs like Cloud Plus and Certified Ethical Hacker and stuff like that. It's a great program. It was pretty instrumental in me being able to pivot from being in the band as a guitar player to cyber professional. Can't say enough good about it. Every Wednesday they have a career ambassador that comes in virtually and speaks to the students. And I've actually been, so I went through the program, graduated, and I've been one of the career ambassadors a couple times, giving back to the students and sharing my experience. And just they pour, it's like drinking from a fire hose of information, really. They just pour information into you. You do a lot of hands-on practice. So it's actual, some of the tools I learned, I started using right away when I started my first cyber job. So wonderful program.
So gaining the cyber skills and all that through this program, it's got to cost a ton of money. So what's the cost to the service member trying to do it?
So when I went through, it was nothing because they were accepting the GI Bill. Yeah, it was a no-brainer. SkillBridge and paid for by the Army. I think they're currently in the middle of changing schools. So I don't believe they're accepting the GI Bill at the moment, but hopefully they will again in the future. Outside of that, it is pretty pricey, but I think if my GI Bill didn't pay for it, I probably would have still paid for it out of pocket.
Is there any looking as far as they're concerned to try to get in with the credentialing services and stuff that the military offers while people are serving?
I think they're looking into it, but from what I understand, it's just a long process. But yeah, if they could be a part of VET Tech or credentialing assistance, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, and therein lies the big thing about the certifications, right? This industry is so certification heavy, and those certifications aren't free normally, right? So there's so many resources out there too, in addition to Cyber Warrior Academy, which, I'm wearing my CISA logoed shirt. I can't endorse any agencies or any other programs that I'm about to mention. I have to say that now. I've never had to say that before. But, there's a lot of nonprofits out there. Onward to Opportunity will help you get certs. They'll pay for a cert, but they'll give you training in a ton of different ones. I'm trying to think the GI Bill can help you with certain things. There's a lot of boot camps out there. Vet Tech with the VA is one I've come across quite a bit with folks that are leveraging that. But certifications aren't everything also, right? So, there's always that trifecta balance of education, experience, and certifications, at least in our industry. And people come to me all the time, like, what's more important? They're all equal, right? I ask them back, when they ask me, like, which one should I start with? I always ask back, what do you have time for? Because they're all important. And some of them just take more time than others, right? Generally speaking, I'd say the formal education piece, the bachelor's and master's degrees in cyber, that's going to obviously probably take longer. Experience would also, be the second longest. And then certifications, you can get relatively quick. So, your average transitioning service member, they're probably looking at like a 6-month window. Not a whole lot of time to get a degree, not even a whole lot of time for experience per se. So yeah, maybe jump on those certifications. But if you've transitioned out, maybe you've already landed employment elsewhere and you're wanting to pivot into the industry from that standpoint, then maybe you got time to start going to school, get the degree under your belt before you try to pivot in. And again, Gunnar mentioned a few of the resources there with just the experience piece too. the schools will give you hands-on experience, but then again, like Hack the Box, TryHackMe, again, cyber exercises, capture the flags, bug bounties. Those are all ways that you can hone your skills without actually being employed in the industry. And again, I'm not endorsing from my agency, not endorsing any of those groups, but they're out there, right? And they're all very valuable.
Yeah, all about sharing resources.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what are we doing?
Oh, we did something. He's like, look at me.
Eric, I know, has a question. You can tell on his face he wants to ask one really bad right now. But just to give some context, I've been watching that TV show Heels lately, so that's where the whole wrestling thing came in. I'm watching them, make their craft and everything. So to me, it relates to cyber now. So that's where we're at on that. Eric.
So we've talked about pivoting, right? We've talked about you guys have shed some incredible light on the fact that it's possible, right? That's the bottom line. It's possible. We can pivot. We are capable. I guess my question, Gunnar, I know you're not probably prepared for this, but my question for you is what do you think was the most difficult piece? Forget the field, right? Forget cyber. What do you think was the most difficult piece of accepting and moving forward with pivoting?
The most difficult piece. I think your mindset really. I remember being pretty scared. I decided to get out of the Army, and like nothing's guaranteed, right? It's pretty secure in the Army. You got a steady paycheck and all that stuff that comes with it. So fear of the unknown was pretty terrifying. Like my motivation to get really good at cyber was really like, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want my family to be homeless. I have to do what it takes to get good at this field. And just using that as motivation and trying to have a good mindset to kind of counteract that fear, because it'll mess with your head, especially when you start applying for jobs. You may apply for dozens or hundreds. I hear lots of stories. People apply for jobs for 2 years and don't get hired. But I really like sharing my story and what worked for me to try to help other people shorten their timeline. I know Keith is very passionate about it as well. So,
and in that, and that was a great segue, by the way, because you have no idea what I'm about to do. But as Pippen would to Jordan, I'm about to alley-oop to Keith as the Band-Aid ripper. When you have one of our people, when you have one of our community who are facing that fear of the unknown, what is your go-to piece of advice, brother?
Find a mentor, find 10, build a board of advisors. I've said it a million times in posts, and I think I am 99% sure I said it on the last time I was with you all. But my formula for successful transition regardless of what you're necessarily doing, whether what you're trying to pivot into, the first one is find a mentor, right? And then the second one is leverage every other resource that you can get your hands on, which we've thrown a bunch out there this morning, a bunch of different ones just for cyber. And then the last one, we've already kind of touched on it too, is just don't give up, right? Grind. You're going to fail, right? That first resume review is going to be brutally honest and it's going to break your spirit, right? That first interview or that first job application is Gunnar's like, yes. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
I love you, Gunnar.
100 times that happened. Honestly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And and then, that first job application is going to fall flat, right? No callback. That first interview you're not going to get offered the job, and granted, I hope not all of those happen to you in your transition, but something's going to happen. You're going to fail at some point. Just the ability to pick yourself back up, brush yourself off, have those mentors, have those people in your corner. I love the definition that I have for a mentor is someone who has your best interest at heart, but is not impressed by you. Right, somebody who's able to give you those somebody who's able to give you those hard truths. Have at least one of them. And there's different types of mentors. Like I tell folks, I'm an a la carte mentor. I don't have time. I'm sorry, I don't have time to go hounding you to keep you accountable for things. But you need somebody like that. Put me on your board of advisors. Reach out to me when you got questions. I'm more than happy to chat with you. Those are my three biggest pieces of advice for a successful transition.
I love that. Yeah. I think it was Gary V that said, and I might be wrong, but I think it was Gary V that said you have to be willing to take 400 no's to get to the right yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to walk into this thing knowing I'm going to get no's.
Yeah.
I'm going to get no to my resume. I'm going to get a no to my interview. I'm going to get no's.
Yep.
I'm okay with that because I'm trying to get to the right yes.
Yes. Yep. I liken it
It
to
takes one yes.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And then the whole world changes. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we've come down and actually already past time, but I know you guys had something here you wanted to quickly talk about. We got here about a minute or minute and a half here. We can go through this a minute if you want.
Sure. Yeah. Gunnar doesn't know I'm doing this, but yeah, this is the one thing I can endorse because this is actually created by my agency. And this is not the only thing that's out there like this, but since I can endorse it, my agency, we have what's called the Cyber Career Pathways tool. So if you are trying to pivot into the industry, you're not even sure where to start, right? Like, because people come to me and they're like, I want to go into cyber. And I'm like, great. What niche of cyber? And they're like, just cyber. I'm like, that's not a job. Like, it's like leadership. It's not a job, right? So this will help you kind of drill down on that. Especially if maybe your background, if you were an Intel person, we have Intel and cyber. If you're more on the IT side of the house, but using this career pathways tool, you can use it. It's interactive. So like you say, again, let's say you're an Intel person, right? Let's say you're hardcore Intel. So, you click on the Intel side and then you can even do cross-functional. It's just play with it, right? You can look at different job titles. You click on one of the job titles, click close, you don't even see that. And then, in here you got tasks. You can look at these are the kinds of things they would want to see on a resume, right? The KSAs, those are the kind of things you, again, want to see on a resume, or that's going to be in the job announcements, that sort of thing. Other types of relational jobs and stuff that you can apply for. So yeah, check this out. It's a great tool. There's others out there like it, like I said, but this is the one I'm allowed to endorse. So yeah, feel free to take a look.
They can find that right on the CISA webpage.
Yeah, I mean, if you just Google CISA cyber, actually NICCS, what you see at the top of the screen, that's what we used to be called. We haven't changed the website. So the NICS, but yeah, NICS cyber career pathways tool.
Okay, that is an amazing tool. That's just unbelievable. Well, gentlemen, I'm before I pass to Eric, I'm going to thank you for coming on again, Keith and Gunnar, for the first time to talk cyber. Cyber is it's a phenomenal area that, as you just demonstrated, covers all kinds of disciplines. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing that. And it's one of those things you hear all the time. I probably hear that as much as people looking for remote work. They want cyber, and so they kind of go hand in hand at some point as well. But just some great stuff, and hopefully this will help people in our audience really make that pivot if they really want to and understand the dedication that they're going to have to. Eric, I might pass it over to you for closing comments, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day just to hang out with us and to share your experience, to share your wealth of knowledge. Keith, I love having you on, dude. You can come on as many times as you want. But Gunnar, thanks for being here, brother. Thanks for sharing your experience and being a little bit vulnerable with us and talking about kind of what you went through. But listen, folks, again, like I said, I've been doing this transition thing for a minute. I'm probably still in transition, but the truth is, if you're looking at cyber, if you're really interested in that field, these are two people you absolutely need to connect with. So please reach out to them. Use the a la carte mentor and the Band-Aid ripper. Use the cyber maestro, but get in contact with these guys and get your questions answered. All right, guys, everyone, thank you for tuning in to the VET S.O.S. podcast. Remember, don't drown in a sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. lifeline.